Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for our session on the BIS registration and emerging compliance for imports into India in association with ENY LLP. I'm Tracy Fernandez, Senior Manager for Events and Membership Western Region at FK, and I will be your host for today's event. Before we dive in, let's go down to a few ground rules. We encourage active participation, so please feel free to post your questions in the chat box and address them to the organizers. Once, based on the time available, we will try our best to answer all your questions towards the end of the presentation. Now, without any further ado, to give the opening remarks, we have Ms. Rucha Avti. She's the events manager for the for Pune region. Over to you.
Thank you, Tracy. Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the Indo-French Chamber of Commerce and Industry, a hearty welcome to all of you joining us today for this insightful webinar on BIS registration and emerging compliance for imports into India. Bureau of Indian Standards, that is BIS, the national standards body of India, is engaged in activities of standardization, conformity assessment, and quality assurance of goods, articles, processes, systems, and services. The Indian standards established by BIS forms the basis of the product certification schemes which provide third-party assurance of quality, safety, and reliability of products to consumers. Several product compliances to Indian standards are made compulsory by the central government under various considerations, namely public interest, protection of human, animal, or plant health, safety of the environment, prevention of unfair trade practices, and national security. For such products, the central government directs mandatory use of standard mark under a license or certificate of conformity from BIS through assurance of QCOs. Over the next 1 hour, we will delve into different focus areas on the same. We will now take a moment to introduce our speakers today. Please welcome Krishna Barad, who's the Director of Global Trade at Ernst & Young LLP. A brief background about Krishna. He has over 30 years of professional experience in leading customs and international trade compliance at various large Indian and multinational corporations such as EY, PwC, GE, ThyssenKrupp, Essar Steel, Sterlite Cooper, Syngenta, Metastrips, and Sterlite Technologies. He has written over 25 articles in various leading print media, that is newspaper, magazines, journals, etc., and conducted over 32 webinars on various topics of customs, foreign trade policy, SEZ, international trade, etc. He has also participated as a speaker in Break Bulk Conference in Singapore and Export Trade Control Symposium in Shanghai, China, and traveled to UK for Global Customs Meeting. Our second speaker for today is Ms. Ruchi Bhat, who's a partner indirect taxes at Ernst & Young LLP. Ruchi operates out of the Pune office and has 15 years of professional experience in handling indirect tax advisory. She is the solution architect for EY's automation solution for customs and FTP compliance, which is EY Global Trade Automation. She also specializes in HSN classification advisory, litigation, cross-border trade advisory. She has led large transformation projects in XM function and has also contributed to writing articles and has delivered lectures before various professional forums. Now, without further ado, I would like to hand it over to Krishna to begin the webinar for us.
Very good afternoon, everyone. Me and Krishna, we welcome you on this forum today. And I think Rucha has given the background about BIS quite in detail. And we already know, quite a lot about the Indian standard. It's not a new subject, but today, if you see what we've chosen is more on the import side, because nowadays, if you see the large base is getting broad based as far as the applicability of BIS is concerned on the products, and which is going to affect our entire supply chain more from an import side. So while as a trade, we have been always vigilant in terms of our compliances for the manufactured goods, where generally the challenge comes is in case of imported goods, since the compliances have to be done by our overseas vendor, and which may have a rippling effect in terms of our entire chain and the production activity. So today, what we have tried covering, so the next 1 hour, you will get to see the overview of the standards, its applicability, what are the different licensing requirements which are there, and most importantly, of course, what is in there for your particular industry, and what are the exemptions that you can claim from some of these, applicability of QCOs. So I handed over to Krishna. He will give us the walkthrough of all the uh, you know law, I mean the compliance requirement, as well as the applicability industry wise. And towards the end, maybe we just see that how we as an industry can implement it at our end. So over to you, Krishna.
Very good afternoon to all. And first of all, I would like to thanks Rucha Auti and Tracy Fernandez from Indo-French Chamber of Commerce and Industries. And very good afternoon to all who are on the call. So hope I am audible to everyone. Without further delay, we will go to the slides which are there with respect to the Bureau of Indian Standards and its requirements when the goods are being imported in India by the Indian importers for the manufacturing of the goods. So just Tracy, next slide, please. Yeah. So the background of the Bureau of Indian Standards goes back to the WTO as well as the UNCTAD, which are the trade bodies across the world, and who lays down the foundations for the movement of the goods from one country to another country. And as a part of non-tariff barriers as well as tariff barriers, there are different requirements when the goods are to be imported as well as exported into the country. And every country has its own compliances as well as the interest, national interest, when the goods are to be imported as well as exported, and also to give the market access to the another country basis the natural resources scarcity as well as surplus, and which cause for the imports as well as exports. And as a part of this tariff barrier or control in terms of the influx of non-spurious material, which will be handled, used by the public at large, which may have the potential hazard or the environment hazard or the safety issues on such goods, the specific country and its regulations lays down the requirement to control the imports by way of mechanism of standards as well as safety requirements or the licensing regime, so that the quality products are imported into the country and they are having with specific standards when it comes to the usage by the public as well as the industries who are manufacturing the goods for the local consumption as well as the export of such goods to the other countries. And obviously, typically, these licensing regimes are coming from the foreign trade policy in the Indian context, or the customs regulations when it comes to the imports of the goods. Now, how it works? Basically, government through DGFT by way of notification, they may issue the guidelines or quotas, or they may put some restrictions for the trade, so that the imports are regulated and they are properly permitted through specific permissions as well as licenses. Tracy, please go to next slide. Now, these standards plays an important role when it comes to the manufacturing of the goods. And obviously, each country, unlike India, we have BIS as well as FSSAI and many other regulatory bodies. On the same sidelines, the major economies like United States of America, United Kingdom, Canada, and Japan, and many other economies has their own standards which are applicable when the goods are manufactured as well as sold in those countries. And now, how to have the identification of such certified products, and then in those situations the requirement comes on the products, the embossment or the specific marks which needs to be put on the products where to identify, and the certification is granted by the respective agencies which are situated in those countries, so as the duplicate as well as spurious quality products are not sold, and which may pose the hazards to the end user when the goods are purchased by him for the usage in his own capacity. Next slide, Tracy. Yeah. Now, what is the legal background of Bureau of Indian Standards as well as the other regulatory requirements? So we have foreign trade policy in India, which has three categories of imports. We call it as free to import, restricted imports, as well as prohibited imports. So foreign trade policy has laid down the import policy as well as exports policy when the goods are to be imported as well as exported. In addition to these, Customs Act Section 11, which also has the provisions in terms of the import of the goods subject to compliance under other allied acts, and the other line ministries as well as regulatory agencies who control the product specifications as well as the its technical parameters for the purpose of importation. And the quality standards are also laid down by the specified ministries as well as the specified agencies when it comes to the imports of such good. Now, how it works? Typically, the Indian standards are created by various line ministries through Bureau of Indian Standards in consultation with those line ministries. Then the product specification is created, and then the product specification as well as the other details are placed for the public consultation, and there are different team members from the various ministries who formulate the specification as well as its parameter, and then create the Indian standards. And once the Indian standards is created, then the concerned line ministry also issues the quality control order to implement such standards from the manufacturing as well as importation of such goods, so that there is a proper understanding and guidelines issued to the trade, and the importer or the manufacturer, he adheres to the compliance in the quality control order. So please go to the next slide. Yeah. Now obviously the compliance of Bureau of Indian Standards and its regulations has specific requirements, and there is a BIS Act 2016 which has got the specific provisions under the non-compliance. If we import goods which are in the ambit of BIS registration and the quality control order, the importer as well as exporter has to obtain the registration, and if such goods are imported without registration, then there are specific penal provisions as well as fine and penalties which may be recovered from the importer. Now, what all are the schemes under the Bureau of Indian Standards to regulate and do the quality standardized production in the country? There are four such schemes which are available in the country. Our today's focus will be on foreign manufacturer certification scheme as well as compulsory registration schemes, because these covers the imported goods, and there is a hallmarking scheme which is predominantly for the gems and jewelry sector, and of course product certification scheme which involves ISI Mark, which is predominantly for the domestic manufacturers who needs to comply with such licensing requirements and the follow-up of the Indian standards when the goods are manufactured by them. Next slide, please. Now, when these quality control orders are issued by the concerned ministry or the Bureau of Indian Standards, if you see, there is a WTO, World Trade Organization, who has the technical barriers to trade, which has the mandate whenever every country, whenever they are issuing such standards or the quality control orders, they have to upload this information on the website of the WTO. And until today, BIS has issued over 22,000 standards, and out of which 404 are mandatory. And these IS standards are then made as a regulation through issuance of the quality control order. Now, there are almost 200 products which are covered by different standards, and there are 234 more quality control orders has been issued, and they are due for implementation in coming days from June till 25, June 2024 till 2025. And obviously, we need to see that if I am importing any product, then obviously I will have to see that if the quality control order is there for that particular product, then I need to see that the BIS registration is in place before importation. Now, obviously, there are certain exemptions which are available for the importing category. One is the EOU as well as SEZ, who are manufacturing the goods for the export purpose. Then they will be exempted from BIS regulations, including the imports made under advance authorization scheme. If I am importing goods for manufacturing under advance authorization scheme, then we will be exempted from BIS compliance and the registration thereof for those products which are being used for the purpose of export manufacturing. Next slide. Now, who all are the ministries who issues the quality control orders? So this is again an umbrella list, are the major ministries who issues the quality control order. So obviously, all products which are from chapter 72 and 73, that is articles of iron and steel and iron and steel products, these are regulated through QCO by the Ministry of Steel. Then DPIIT, which again another largest body who issues the quality control order for the various products. And then there is a chemical Ministry of Textile, Ministry of Mines, and METI, which is again one of the very important line ministry who issues the QCO for the products which are predominantly in the electronic sector and which are under CRS, that is compulsory registration requirement perspective. So these are the ministries. So obviously the legislative framework or the gazette notification in the form of quality control order is issued by these line ministry when the BIS licensing requirements is to be implemented. Next slide. Now we are talking about the products under ISI Mark scheme, and this scheme is predominantly for the manufacturers who are manufacturing the goods in the country. And obviously, whenever the goods are to be sold by any manufacturer, then as many of you are aware that there is a ISI Mark is there, and also we keep on watching the advertisement on the television as well, that wherein the ISI Mark promotion is made, because the ISI certified products are to be procured, purchased, and used for the day-to-day affairs. Now, if you see the broader category, it encompasses the cement industry. So if I am using Portland cement for the real estate, then I should have the ISI Mark if I am selling such goods in the market. If I am without ISI Mark, I can't sell the goods, or I can't store or distribute the goods for the end user in the country. Same thing, there are automobile accessories, steel and iron products, metal and alloys, electrical motors, and capacitors. And the list is again indicative. It doesn't cover the entire gamut of the items which are under this compulsory products ISI Mark scheme. Next slide, please, Tracy. Yeah, now this definitely is an important slide, because as we see that India under the aegis of Make in India initiative as well as Atmanirbhar Bharat initiative, we are putting a lot of manufacturing capabilities or ramping up the production capacities through the PLI, and we see India is poised to become electronic manufacturing hub, and obviously for to facilitate that, also the standards has been prescribed by METI, and all electronic products, whether it is laptop, desktop, servers, tablet, computers, smart watches, and other televisions, plasma TVs, digital cameras, printers, scanners, all these items are coming under the CRS scheme. And whenever I am importing these goods, then obviously I need to have I need to ensure that the manufacturer of these products has obtained the BIS registration from the BIS authorities. And if I am an importer, I need to check with the supplier that you are already having the BIS registration, without which we will not be in a position to import, and not only import, will not be in a position to sell those goods in the country. So obviously all the specific companies who are either trader or the manufacturers or importers, many time IT companies who are into BPO or IT services, they need the servers and laptops. So it is always better to keep an eye that whether am I importing the laptops and servers with BIS registration. Otherwise, if it gets imported, customs may not allow the clearance in the absence of the BIS registration as well as its mark on the package as well as the product. Next slide, please. Yeah, now this is also another important scheme, which is foreign manufacturers certification scheme. And obviously, if I am a foreign multinational company in India, and I have a subsidiary in, say, Malaysia or Singapore, and I am buying certain products from them for the finished products manufacturing, etc., then obviously if the product is in the ambit of quality control order, then I need to ensure the compliance of BIS requirement. Now, how it works? Typically, the BIS registration is specific to a particular product, particular location, manufacturing location, and the country, and the IS standard. So technically, if I am manufacturing multiple products at one facility in, say, Malaysia or Singapore, which are following under different IS standard, then I need to obtain BIS registration for each product at each IS standard level. So obviously that is the mandatory requirement, and we need to ensure that the BIS registration is valid at the time of import. If the license was granted, but if it is expired and the import comes, then obviously the clearance will not take place and you will not be allowed to do the custom clearance. So obviously the BIS license, when it comes to the registration under this scheme and as well as CRS scheme, it is granted to the manufacturer or the original equipment manufacturer. It is not granted to a company who is doing the trading of multiple manufactured products. So please bear in mind, if you are buying certain products from a trader and if you wish to get the BIS registration will not be granted to a trading company who is not manufacturer of that product. So we have to bear this in mind, because there is always a tendency to purchase the goods from trader also because of business requirements and the supply chain. So please remember, this FMCS scheme and the CRS scheme, the BIS registration will be always given to the manufacturer and it will not be granted to trader. And again, if the supplier has multi-locational manufacturing facility in one country or multi-country, the registration will be always granted to a plant location and the site specific. You cannot have extend the license of, say, Singapore to Malaysia or Malaysia to Vietnam. It will be always plant specific. So we'll have to take multiple licenses if we have multi-locational manufacturing and the procurement from such manufacturer. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Tracy?
Tracy, if you can share the screen, my screen is frozen.
Oh, okay. So you want me to share the screen?
If it's possible, that would be great, Krishna,
I will
because
add.
I
Yeah,
think
I
we
will.
have a system issue.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah. Let me know my screen is visible.
Not yet up, Krishna. Yeah, now it's coming up. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's there.
sure. Yeah. Now, this is the, the BIS certification layout, and I will maybe probably spare some time on this. One is that whenever the BIS registration and the application is to be made, we need the OEM, who is the manufacturer of the ultimate equipment. Now, before that, what we will have to do is that the manufacturer of the product, he needs to see that the particular product falls under which IS standard with the specifications laid down over there. Once that is confirmed, then obviously he can take the step of making an application for the BIS registration. So obviously you need the OEM and the facility as requirement for the purpose of the quality parameters and specifications given in the IS standard. Then you need also authorized Indian representative to file the application. Without AIR, we can't file the application because it is mandatory under this FMCS scheme and the CRS scheme. We need to have the AIR. Now, who can be AIR? Any company who is established in India, or custom broker, or any freight forwarder, if they are willing to do so, or any entity who is having the established registration in terms of the local registration, PAN, GST, etc. He or she can become member, or the foreign company has their own branch office and they have the legal representative, whether he is Indian or foreign national, he can also become an AIR. Now, once the application is submitted to the BIS authorities, then they will scrutinize the application, and then they will schedule the factory visit for the purpose of assessment of the manufacturing process as well as quality testing, how they do quality setup and testing lab, etc. They will come for the factory visit. That factory visit may take between 2 to 3 days in terms of the completion of the product. They will carry out the assessment of the production facility, quality standards, as well as record keeping, and how they are evaluating they will conduct the test as per the procedures laid down in the IS. And then they will ask the manufacturer to provide the test report of those products. Then once the testing of the products is completed, the tested product on which the testing is done will be sent or brought to India, and again it will be retested at a nominated laboratory which is certified and assessed or approved by the BIS authority again. And the test results thereof will be then reconciled in terms of its the specifications as well as the parameters and the quality standards. And once the results are okay, or they are in line with the specifications, then the BIS will then grant the BIS registration or the license. Now, the license will be valid for a period of 1 year. Then it can be renewed for 1 year, or up to 5 years. The renewal is possible. Now, typically, the cycle time for grant of this BIS registration is pretty long because of the number of applications as well as the resource mobility at the BIS as an agency, and the lab which is required for testing of such products, and number of applications. So all put together, the average timing which is available is between 6 to 9 months for getting the BIS registration. And obviously, the import which we want to do, we need to see that if the BIS registration is not available, the longevity is very long, and we need to plan the things in advance. And that's why we need to keep an eye on the quality control orders and its implementation date whenever we need to comply with such requirements. If in the absence of if the goods are imported, then customs may not allow the import of such goods, and you will have to then pay fine penalty, or at the end we may have to re-export those goods, or they may be, if they are not cleared and re-exported, then customs may send it for the auction, or they may do the destruction as per the provisions under the customs law. So uh, then we have sectors and the products which are predominantly having the applicability of the BIS and other things. So the list is pretty long, and we see that footwear, athlete wear, steel products, IT products, auto and engineering sector, toys and utensils, cooking ware, a lot of items are in the ambit of BIS, and obviously, and the list will get elongated as we progress in the journey. In the interest of the country, the government has brought these measures to promote the quality imports as well as quality products are being sold in the country. Then we have these are the upcoming QCOs which are released by the various line ministries, and again this is an indicative list for the purpose of our today's webinar. And obviously we can see that a lot of products are finding its place in the quality control order and the mandatory registration under the BIS for the purpose of the imports and the manufacturing in the country at large. So I will now hand it over to Ruchi to take balance slides from here.
Thank you, Krishna. So, I hope in terms of the applicability, in terms of the process, we are pretty much clear now by now. There are different schemes, there are different exemptions also which are there. So, whenever we are planning to import, what are the things that are mandatorily to be done by us? What is it that we should be, mindful of as a trade, so that we ensure that whatever compliances are to be done are done, and they are also done in time. So we've just given an illustrative stepwise activities that are supposed to be done. So firstly, it's very important that we get our product review done and the alignment with the IS standard. Krishna, if you can continue sharing your screen. Just maybe if you can come back to the slide deck. No, are you sharing it back? Yes, thank you. So it is important that we get our product review done on the import side and the IS alignment. It is also important that we look at the HSN. But largely, if you see the challenge that we currently face is that not many QCOs are coming up with the HSN based applicability. So the description and the applicability that comes in the IS is a bit different than what we see as a part of HSN, and that alignment also becomes a challenge. Currently, some of the QCOs like steel have given it at a HSN level. So we'll have to be mindful of the applicability where we need more of an understanding of the of our product, which generally we are better off with, but then aligning it with the BIS applicability is going to be important. Then once we conclude that it is applicable, then we of course have to get through the BIS registration process that we explained. But also, like what I've been seeing on the questions which are coming up, some of the things which are used in exports, some of, while they have clarified for EOUs and advanced license holders or SEZs, but what if it is a DTA unit using it for the purpose of export? Can we claim, or we are using it for the purpose of R&D? Can we go and request for a NOC that either to say that either our product itself is not falling into the BIS ambit, where the technical specification given in the BIS standard is not matching with our product, or we are using it for the purpose of export? Can we request for NOC? Of course, that is going to be subject to discretion that they will have from the authorities side, and we can, in that situation, the other option is of course to go as advocacy, represent, request that while it is applicable to a larger extent, and the intent is to have a quality product going into the market to the end user, But if we are using it for a purpose which is more for, let's say, research purposes, or using it for our in-house consumption, then can we get a exemption? Is something, of course, it is a matter of advocacy. We need a representation, and if it goes through, we might be getting that exemption itself. So it is also always important to look at our entire gamut of material masters. So what we've done, Krishna, if we can move to the next slide. So we believe that this is kind of a stepwise activities that should be done. And always, I mean, as far as imports are concerned, HSN is always going to be the first step, and a lot of at least the requirements which are coming from DGFT side, they are aligned with HSN code. So it is always critical that we identify our HSN of the product clearly, because the ones which are driven with HSN code, and if they are given at a 4-digit level, then it is very it becomes important that at the time of import, because the assessing officer is going to look at your HSN code and apply the applicability of the standard, where maybe technically a product may not be fitting into the requirement. So it is important that we have our HSN defined properly, and alongside also the item description that we are going to put at the time of import, because this is going to be of utmost important, where it gives you the description, it gives you the uh, chance to explain it to the assessing officer at the port, that what exactly is this product and why is it into this HSN. But of course, in light of also the IS applicability which is there. So if it is freely importable or it comes with a restriction that you need to have a BIS registration, is something that you have to see. It can be beyond BIS. Of course, there are different type of CCR which are applicable. Different PGS come in picture, where the importability gets decided alongside the importability which is coming from the import and export schedule, where either it is freely importable, it is restricted, or it can be even prohibited. And when it is restricted, we need to ensure that whatever are the requirements which are to be done, subject to which it is allowable, we need to fulfill that. Apart from the restrictive nature, there can be review of the IS standard that we have to do. So currently we are focusing more on the IS standard. There will be more PGS which are there, which we really need to see if they are applicable. But from an BIS perspective, we'll have to review that is this standard applicable to this type of product that we are importing. And lastly, we'll have to see that we look at the registration requirement also. That if after the fourth step we are of a strong opinion that yes, we need to get the registration done, then it is imperative that we'll have to undertake that activity. We'll have to even factor in the time that it takes to take the registration, and then we prepare ourselves that at the time of import we have to have that. If there is a possibility of obtaining a NOC, okay, that it is not applicable, or the product itself is not covered into it, or subject to some advocacy, we've got some waiver, then it is important that we get even those NOCs on time, so that the clearance happens smoothly. There are some judgments which are applicable available. There are some precedences which are there, which we can refer to. So it is important that we undertake this activity at a material master level. So it is going to be a very voluminous activity, because if you look at the import number of products that you would be importing are going to be, of course, large. There, the dependency in terms of the technical nature of the product is also dependent on the vendor side. So it's important that we look at the entire active import products. Let's say you can take a period of last 2 years, and then take the validation process one by one, evaluate the importability, and then you can prepare yourself for the imports which are getting covered into the BIS applicability. So that's in a nutshell in terms of compliances that we wanted to cover today. Explain you the applicability, and also explain you the process that you will have to undertake. What we have done, that even before rather the Q&A started, or even before the session kicked in, we have already identified some of the questions which are there, which we believe are generally FAQs as far as BIS is concerned. And I can see while Krishna was presenting, I could see that some of the questions resonated with what we've already put in under FAQ. So now we've got 15 minutes in the webinar. We will take this time to take some of these questions and explain you to what extent we can support, and also to say that if you believe that some of the questions which are put up currently on the slide, if they resonate with your question set, please put it on the chat and we will take them one by one. Yeah, yeah, Krishna, maybe if we can take up some of these questions.
Sure. Krishna, should I moderate the questions or you would want to pick it up as?
Yeah. You please
All
moderate.
right, all right. So the first question was, why are different agencies issuing QCOs if no QCO covers the IS standard, which applies to the import items? Then, is BIS mandatory solely for usage in physical export purposes, which is not covered under AA, SEZ, or EOU? And what accounts for the differing treatment in the imposition of BIS mandatory requirements between direct import for export purposes and import against AA, SEZ, or EOU?
Yeah, so I think this is a very good question. Now see, typically the BIS is a quality standard requirements in terms of the manufacturing of the goods which are sold for the local consumption. And obviously whenever the importer who is a manufacturer importer, then obviously he will have to see that if he's importing such goods for the purpose of exports, then obviously BIS authority has given the leeway, because many time the manufacturer who manufactures the goods, like automobile, I will take an example of automobile sector. Now obviously in India we have say right hand drive, then obviously the left hand drive cars, they are predominantly used in the other part of the world. Then obviously BIS has taken a view that since these goods are not used or sold in the local market, then and hence they are exempted for the purpose of BIS registration. That is one. Second thing is that it is for the trade facilitation as well as promote the manufacturing in the country and have the foreign currency earning. Then obviously such requirements of if the goods are imported and manufactured and exported, then obviously it will defeat the purpose of the ease of doing business as well as trade facilitation. And hence the goods which are imported, because whenever anyone who is into SEZ activity, he is to comply with the net foreign exchange earning. So is the case under the advance authorization scheme. I have to achieve the positive value addition in terms of the chapter 4 of the foreign trade policy, and also I am committed to carry out the export, because if I am an importer under advance authorization, then the goods imported under advance authorization will be always used, and manufactured goods will be then exported out of the country, because you can't sell the duty exempted goods imported under advance authorization and then sell in the local market. So hope that answers the question.
Thank you, Krishna. We'll take up the next question that we had. Just give me a moment. The steel QCO mentions the HS code. If the product we import does not fall under any of those HS codes of the steel QCO, is it right to assume that our vendor need not be BIS certified? Also, no other QCO refers to HS code, and why is that so?
Okay, now that's also again a very technical question. So steel ministry, because of their availability as well as the data management and the products which are of different nature for the steel sector, and hence the steel ministry has always issued the quality control orders basis the HS codes, and are the products are aligned with the HS code. And obviously if the HS code at 8-digit or 6-digit level is not appearing in the quality control order, but I am importing a goods which is basis the HS code, I can conclude that the product which I am importing is outside the ambit of the BIS. But obviously if the product which I am importing is flat steel, or the HRC or CRC, which has the IS standard, for example, then obviously I need to still take a cautious measure that the BIS compliance is made. Vice versa, many times what we have seen is that certain sectors of the uh, industry, like for example aviation sector, or the defense sector, which has very specific requirement of steel, are the products which are beyond the quality standards or the parameters. And in such a scenario, there may not be availability of the QCO released by the ministry or the HS. By virtue of the HS code, I may be falling in the ambit of the BIS requirement, but the specifications will be very different. And in such a scenario, I will have to definitely go to the steel ministry and seek an NOC or the permission if I am importing. And obviously these are very subjective, and unfortunately the work is in progress for other ministries as well to align it with the HS codes. But again, HSN is a larger piece, because every product or the description may not be covered, and hence many times the trade has the inclination to classify the products in the residual category or the others category. So obviously there is a challenge which is a difficulty for the trade at large also. But the suggestions are already given to the ministry and as well as DPIIT, but it is in work in progress. We'll have to wait and see how the other ministries also, when they issues the quality control order, they also facilitate the HSN codes. And similar, the same challenge is there for the export side also, wherein if the products which are exported are falling in the dual age category of SCOMET, then this issue also remains for the trade, because the SCOMET items are also not aligned with the HS code. So it's a current stage. Probably we'll see in near future government may do some correction or trade facilitation.
Right. Thank you, Krishna. The next one. We are importing polyester high density yarn under AA, and same is covered under Ministry of Chemicals and Petrochemicals. Should we simply mention only brand name under AA application, and will it suffice?
Now see again, there are a couple of things. What is my item master, in the ERP, and how the purchase order is released, as well as what is the trade name as well as nomenclature used by the supplier. Because many time there is a tendency, or rather many time, for whatever reason, either suggestions from the service providers that you either change the description or classification just to mitigate the risk. But otherwise, if factually the product description is the trade description and is also aligned with the QCO as well as the tariff description in the customs tariff law, then there is no problem. We can use for the purpose of advance authorization. And in any case, even if the description is different, but if my imports are under advance authorization, there I am exempted from the BIS requirements in totality.
All right. Thank you, Krishna. The next one. Are food ingredients or food products required for food production requested to proceed with BIS import, or would it be exempted?
Now, if the food ingredients, they are typically for the human consumption, and obviously there are multiple agencies involved. If it is a drug, then it will be pharma, and then controller of drugs, etc., as well as FSSI, which is the food regulatory authority in India. So obviously we'll have to see whether there is any prohibition on the import side, unless until there is a proper certification. Legal metrological act for the food products is also in place. So we'll have to see basis the product and its description, as well as the HS code, what is the product, and whether it requires multiple registration. Because many times, even if the BIS registration is required, still there are other registrations are also needs to be complied. So we need to see what is the product, whether it is for it is sold over the shelf, and etc. To conclude in sum and substance, if there is a quality control order for that food product, then obviously we'll have to adhere to that, in addition to if there are any other regulatory requirements under the different regulatory bodies such as FSSI and CDSO.
All right. Next question, Krishna. While we value the purpose of QCOs in safeguarding consumer interest and product safety, as an R&D centric organization, our focus is not on sales. We do not engage in B2B or B2C sales. Our goal is to develop high quality technologies at competitive rates for manufacturing in India. So why should R&D centric organizations be compelled to comply with the BIS regulations?
Yeah, no, I think this is very a peculiar situation for the R&D centers, and obviously if the HS code as well as the QCO has the description of the product, then obviously the importer will be asked to give the BIS registration. So obviously this needs the trade representation either through their export promotion council or the unit themselves, because they are the affected party in this case. But at the moment, from the QCO side or the BIS side, there is no such specific exemption available, unlike EOU, SEZ, or the imports under advance authorization. So obviously, if they are an EOU doing R&D, then they are out from the BIS requirements. But if they are a standalone entity, DTA unit as an R&D center, then obviously they need to represent it through their export promotion council. It's an area which needs some attention.
Okay. So the next question is, if the factory is outside India, how can testing be done?
Yeah, so if the BIS registration, if it is the goods are manufactured overseas, then as per the licensing requirement, the BIS scientist will visit the factory, and then they will do the testing over there. They will also take the product for testing at the Indian laboratory, which is certified by NABL or the BIS authorities. So obviously I am not clear in the question, but my answer is that if the goods are manufactured overseas and they are subject to QCO and the IS standard, and the BIS registration is being taken, then it will be taken for the manufacturing location, and the certification as well as visit, evaluation of the quality, etc., will be done by the BIS scientist basis his visit when the application is submitted by the manufacturer or the importer who is AIR also, if at all.
All right. Another small question that we have is, can material be imported while the application is under BIS approval?
So I think this is again very situational question. The importer, when he files the bill of entry, obviously by virtue of the this IS standard and the HSN code, the IS gate will trigger the requirement of the BIS. Now whether the similar situation is there for the EPR registrations also, but there were guidelines issued by the CPCB to this effect that if the application is filed for the EPR, then you can clear those goods. But now, in the absence of such guidelines from the BIS authorities, it will be difficult for the clearance of those goods. However, we will recommend that if it is a renewal, then probably customs, we can give some letter or the undertaking that our application is for renewal or it is under consideration. It is again left to the custom department, because whenever the out of charge is to be done by the officer, then he has to, by virtue of the QCO as well as the public notices which are in place, he has to do the physical examination of the cargo, and he has to also verify and put the remark in the during the out of charge that I have verified the marks and serial numbers as well as the packaging and the IS mark or the CRS mark on the product and its outer packaging. So obviously he has to do this due diligence before out of charge is granted. So obviously it is very situational. I would urge the importer to approach to the customs authorities group appraising section or the DCAC or the commissioner to allow the clearance if it is bona fide matter and there is a hardship to the importer. Otherwise, from the systemic perspective, the clearance will be impacted while giving the out of charge.
All right. Thank you, Krishna.
And I think there are a couple of questions which are coming around mover unit also. Multiple questions have come up that if you are a mover unit, still is the BIS applicability there? And there is no exemption per se currently. It is only to advance authorization EOU and SEZ. So just to, because there were multiple questions, I took that up.
Yeah, so I think, just to add it to it is that whenever, even if I am an importer and I am storing the goods in, the bonded warehouse also under section 58, still the bill of entry, when I file, the system will trigger for the BIS requirements. So obviously, PCBW are the mover unit, like they operate under section 56.
Yes.
They are at par when it comes to the BIS compliance.
All right, Krishna, we'll take one more question right now, which is very interesting. Footwear was imported in India before BIS was applicable on them. Now, as on the current date, BIS is applicable on these footwear. But what do we do with the inventory lying in the warehouse?
So obviously, this is again an hardship for the trade, but there is no specific exemption if because the legislation or the BIS Act says that you cannot store, import, sell, distribute the goods if the license is not in place. So obviously, it is a kind of situation wherein the imports has landed and the QCO got implemented. So obviously, the importer who is a shoe importer or the manufacturer or distributor, he has to approach to the BIS authorities and seek, waiver or the exemption. If they grant is well and good. Otherwise, as per the statute, they may have to re-export the goods to the back to origin or any other distribution center if they have. Because otherwise, it's again a very bona fide and situational issue for BIS applicable goods which are imported and either standard or they got landed, but there is no BIS kind of thing.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Krishna. For everybody else, in the interest of time, I know a lot of questions have been, we cannot answer a lot of questions, but what we can also, do is you can route the questions to our email ID, which is mentioned in the chat box, and we will get those answered through Krishna. We will we'll loop Krishna in the emails, and we can answer those questions to you. Our email ID is mentioned in the webinar chat box. It is rucha.awati@ifki.org.in. rucha.awati@ifcci.org.in. And going towards the closing remarks of the webinar, thank you so much, Krishna and Ruchi, for shedding light on so many intricacies of the BIS registration. We express our sincere gratitude to Ernst & Young LLP for their partnership in this knowledge sharing session. Thank you to the audience for participating in this webinar. And we really hope it has been informative and has, insightful, and it might help you to make informed decision. We request you all to please fill up the feedback form and survey, which will pop up after the webinar. Thank you all once again, and have a great evening, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining in. Thank you,
Thank you.
for
Thank you.
organizing it. Thank you. Bye-bye.